They say, excellent. They say a nation's future is built on its youth. But what kind of nation are you building if the youth fears its own future? We have all been in a dark place. And this will happen throughout the rest of your life, not just as a student. You fear about the future. You ask yourself, am I making the right choice? Am I doing the right thing? Will I regret this? Now, we cannot completely eliminate fear, but we can definitely reduce it. And the more we can help today's youth feel more comfortable about their future, the more we can know that we are building a nation that will work. Now, there's all sorts of fears that we have. Fear of the unknown, fear of being alone, fear of not being equipped to deal with tomorrow's challenges. In the Philippines, this fear translates into the education to employment or education to careers pathways that most students face. Now, the statistics are quite scary. Out of 1.5 or 1.7 million high school students who graduate every year, only about 1 million will get to enter some form of higher education. We're talking about college, we're talking about technical vocational training, for some of them it's studying abroad. But that number is actually a bit of an illusion, because out of that 1 million, more than a third will drop out. They will drop out because they picked the wrong course, they went to the wrong university, or very often they actually cannot afford the education that they picked. To make matters worse, of those who jump through all the hoops and actually manage to graduate, half can't find a job. They cannot find meaningful employment after graduation. And that's scary. I think that's scary because we all want to have purpose, and work allows us to have purpose. It's also scary because, considering the income levels that most families have in this country, having a job is not just an aspiration, it's a need. And so we want to deconstruct the fears facing today's students, of the unknown, of being alone, and of being ill-equipped. The first fears, which are about not knowing what choices you have to make, can actually be broken down. A very common question that every high school student will face is, what should I study? And it's quite a natural question because you have to pick something. You have to pick a degree and you have to pick a school. People will make decisions based on their interests, on their skills, on what their parents suggest. And these are all interesting ways of choosing, but I actually think it's not enough. You shouldn't just choose the education, but you should understand how the education prepares you for what lies after graduation. And that can sometimes be answered by this question, which is, what job do I want? Now, the job that you want is not just going to be a factor of what your interests are, but actually also of what companies are looking for. You see, it's not enough to be interested in engineering. If no companies are hiring engineers, then unfortunately, it will not work. So you must look beyond just your personal interests and actually be self-aware about your actual skills. If you're not good at math, you unfortunately will probably not make an amazing architect. If you're afraid of blood, you will be the worst nurse in the world. And then you have to ask yourself what the jobs are out there. What kind of career can you realistically look forward to when you graduate? But there's been some fantastic research done by some trials, I think, in Google and other companies in Silicon Valley, which have tried to reframe the question from what job should I get to what problem should I solve? And this matters for a couple of reasons. I think today's youth is much more interested not just in having a certain career, a certain income level, but also in having impact. Impact means problem solving. And actually, even if you're not passionate about impact, every job is about problem solving. If you're in sales, it's about how do you close clients. If you're in operations, it's how do you put in the right systems. If you're in HR, it's how do you put the right reviews. Everything is about problem solving. But if you're interested in solving society's problem, which, quite frankly, there's plenty of, then you will be able to make choices that will stand right, not just in the next year or two or the next 5 years, but probably for the next decade or longer. Because you see, hunger will not get eradicated in the next 5 years. The poverty in the Philippines, which stands at close to 35 or 40%, will not be eradicated by the time you graduate from college. So knowing what you're passionate about, what problem you want to solve for society, will actually equip you for the fact that the jobs landscape is changing, that some of the jobs of today, maybe being a call center agent, will not be around in 5 years' time. And there's the jobs of tomorrow that you don't know about yet, but they will come, and if you know what problem you're trying to solve, you can be a natural fit for those. So we've talked about all the choices, about all the unknown that you face. The other type of fear that can come is from the fear of being alone. Now, what's important is, they often say it takes a village to raise a child. And so you need to ask yourself, who is in that village? Who wants you to succeed? And here, I offer a lot of hope, because the reality is, most of society wants you to succeed. Now, you will say, okay, fine, obviously the parents want me to succeed because I'm their children. Maybe my teachers too, because that's the passion they have. The reason they became teachers in the first place is because they want to empower the youth. But actually, looking beyond that, even entities which you think are very self-interested want you to succeed. Take corporations. Why would a corporation want you to succeed? Well, you know how I showed you that 1 million students get left behind every year? Well, the problem for corporations in this country is that there's 1 million unfilled jobs. You speak to any CEO in the Philippines and they will tell you their biggest issue is recruiting. They have a lot of openings that they cannot fill. So companies want you to find your path, because hopefully, for some of you, that path will be to work for them and allow them to grow and allow them to build. There's other types of entities that believe in you. Companies that are in technology will want you to use all the tools that they've built to make better decisions. There's a lot of different stakeholders outside your immediate family, outside your immediate educational experience that want you to succeed. There's religious organizations that place a lot of emphasis on future success, etc. And so knowing who is in your ecosystem matters a lot. Knowing how to use a clipper matters more. So another type of fear that we often have is around, are we equipped? Fine, I understand the choices that I face. It's a bit scary, but now I get it. I have to kind of break it down. What should I study? What job do I want? Or even better, what problem should I solve? I now understand that society wants me to succeed, but surely that's not enough. Surely I need to be equipped, and what if I'm not well equipped for the future? So I think there's really two things here. So the first quote-unquote easy answer will be technology. There's a lot of faith that gets placed in technology. We all hope that the internet, the computer, the smartphone is going to help us make better decisions, help us get to a better outcome. And to some extent, it's true. So the first thing that technology does is help us connect. And I'm not just talking about Facebook friends, but really think of all the different platforms that exist beyond just Facebook. Think of like the emails, the WhatsApps, the Vibers, the LinkedIn, the Instagrams. You now have access to not just your friends or your barcada or your relatives, but actually to a whole world of professionals that you may actually look up to. Some of the great speakers that are coming this afternoon may actually be in the field that you're interested in. They may have the most suitable advice for you, advice that will add up over time. And so your ability to connect with those mentors, with those coaches, will actually get you very far. The second thing that technology can do is give you data. So in any business situation, we often say that a data-centric, or at least a data-led insight is a very useful one. Gut feeling is fantastic, wisdom is great, but data can really help you understand as objectively as possible what the situation is, and what you can measure, you can manage. In the case of your personal future, the insights we're talking about are everything from, what are the courses available, to how much do they cost, to when I graduate, what percentage of engineering graduates end up as chemical versus mechanical engineers, what are the typical salary ranges for certain careers, what are the emerging fields that are very hungry for young talent. All this data collected can help you make a better decision. There's other ways technology can help. You can do self-assessments. You can better understand what your skills are, because self-awareness is not just about what your passions are. It's also about what your skills are, because unfortunately, this is what the world looks for, not just passion, but skills as well. But the final element of technology, which is probably my favorite, is actually the efficiency that it brings. A lot of the connections that we've spoken about, a lot of the insights that we've just mentioned, actually already exist out there. With technology, you can get them very quickly. You can move from needing hundreds of hours, privileged access to certain individuals, to actually having everything on a device for free, online, available not just during the day, but during the evenings and on the weekends. This efficiency will allow you to make an informed decision much faster than people 10, 20, and 30 years ago. And that is very exciting. Now, more specifically, in the field of EdTech, the tools that exist will help you. And what's important to remember is they will not help you just in your education phase, but actually throughout the rest of your life. Because you see, having a growth mindset, having an attitude about constant lifelong learning is not just something that will help you when you're 18 or 21. It's something that will help you in your 30s, your 50s, your 70s, and well beyond. And the earlier you start flexing that muscle, the better off you will be. And so here, think of EdTech as offering you tools, whether it's going to be online courses, whether it's going to be online assessments, whether it's school management systems. These are all things that can help you better understand what the future holds for you and make more informed decisions about yourself. Now, as important as technology is, it's incredibly useful to remember that it's only an enabler. It always starts with you. There's a wonderful quote by Sylvia Plath, which we've shown on this slide, which has been shortened, but talks about the myriad of decisions that we face, and more importantly, all the different ramifications. When you're 18, when you're 21, even when you're 30 or 40, there's always so many paths you can take. There's so many topics you could study, so many careers you could try to venture into. And the last thing you want is not just not know your choice, but to be paralyzed by choice. To always ask yourself, what ifs, what ifs? You've heard already today about the negative power of fear. You've heard about how negative regrets, what ifs can be. But sometimes you can actually have regrets from not having made any choice. And so if there's one last thing, piece of advice I'd like to leave you with, is to not be afraid to make a choice. You need to understand the choices you face. You need to know that you're not alone and that society wants you to succeed. And you need to know that you can equip yourself with technology and with the right mindset to make those decisions. But most importantly, you need to make those decisions. I think it was Oscar Wilde who said, "Experience is the name we give to the mistakes that we made." You will make mistakes, and it's absolutely okay. You will fail, and it's absolutely okay. Everyone that you look up to, every mentor, every idol, has failed over and over again. What they have not failed to do, though, is to keep hoping, to keep trying to make the best decision that they could. And at the end of the day, you must remember, it is, after all, your future, and it is your choice. Thank you.